Don't find fault, find a remedy. Henry Ford. From a recent OCD group therapy session, we came across unhelpful thinking styles. I had come across this before in the form of cognitive distortions, and therapy has only highlighted its importance to me. So much so that I want to make a video. In this video, I'm going to go through a few of them and provide some solutions to what you could do if you feel that you fall into one of them and what we want to turn that into, because in the therapy session we kind of identified them, but I want to take that a bit further and have them transform from the unhelpful thinking style to a more helpful one. The first one is judgments. This is where we're jumping straight to judgments and evaluations of what we see and creating an interpretation within our own mind, rather than just describing what's actually there, what we actually see. So your partner might have a little dig at you for leaving the door unlocked and maybe making a few jokes, and you take that the wrong way with your own judgment that says that they don't like you or they think that you're incompetent, whereas you could just describe to yourself what you see, they're just having a joke with you, and then anything beyond that point is an interpretation that you are making in your own mind. What we could do to help with that style of thinking is by being more open-minded and first trying to start with a description of what we see rather than jumping straight to that evaluation and asking ourselves what is a healthier way of interpreting what has just happened. Meditation will be very good for helping with this. I've been doing it for 10 minutes a day for about 6 months now, and it just helps you realize when a thought pops in to not judge it straight away and to just allow it to be there and go on by. Next we have emotional reasoning, which is not the best idea because basing decisions entirely on our feelings is not helpful. If we do have a negative tendency, then the actions that we will take will not be benefiting us or the people around us. This can be turned into logical reasoning, where you really break down the evidence for and against this thought that's in your mind or this situation that you're dealing with, rather than jumping straight to that negative appraisal, getting yourself worked up and now thinking, just because I'm annoyed, I need to do something about this. This is important, when it might be that you're just making it more important than it actually is, so that you can hopefully make a decision that will benefit you and not hinder you. The third one is black and white thinking. We want to turn this into accepting the grey. The world is very much a grey place. There are a few things that are black and white, and when it is black and white, that's just within our own mind. We're saying that it's black and white. That's our opinion is black and white, like if right or wrong, we will be stronger on some things than others, and we'll back up that sense of certainty because we may use other people, and a lot of people think this way, so therefore it is right, when it could be in 30 years that the opinion is completely different. The fourth is compare and despair, so it's quite self-explanatory, especially in the age of social media where it's very easy to see someone else and what they're trying to show off about their life, and we're very quickly going to compare it to our own. We can turn this one into learning from others. Rather than seeing the success of others as a failure in ourselves, we can ask ourselves, what have they done to produce the results that they have, and then try to take similar actions. Or we also know that social media, people really just want to put their highlights of their life. They're going to make everything look good. Pictures are just a snapshot of their life in that very moment, so they may be portraying something that isn't exactly how their life is, and that's very important to remember with social media in general. It's not like we have a 24-hour live stream of their lives, because that would be very boring, but when you scroll through their social media feed over a few weeks where they've taken some high quality photos where they're happy or videos, then it can give this perception that their life is incredible. But if you were to do like a 24-hour stream on them, sure, there'll be highlights in there, but there's going to be them stuck in traffic, sleeping, getting ready, just dealing with the mundane stuff that we all have to. Next we have shoulds and musts. This is where you're telling yourself you should be doing something or you must be doing something. You're always putting that pressure on yourself, telling you have to do this, you have to do this, you have to do this. I think it's better to turn this into I want to. And so if we applied that to maybe if you're a student and you've got some work to get done, rather than saying I have to get this assignment done, tell ourselves I want to get it done because it aligns with my long-term goals. That's why you've gone to university, you're getting student debt, rather than saying I have to do this. View it as this is something that aligns with my long-term goals and something that I want, so therefore I want to get this assignment done. And that will just reframe it in your mind and help you get started, which then will help you be more motivated because you've taken actions. So by reminding yourself of your long-term goals and then by reframing it as I want to, will help give you that little nudge to then get on with it, which will then produce more motivation for you to carry on and hopefully produce better results for your assignment. So the sixth one is catastrophizing. This is where you're jumping to the worst case scenario every single time with things that bother you. If you were to do this with everything, you literally wouldn't move because you'll be scared of taking a step that you're going to break your ankle or something. So where you see yourself jumping to these worst case scenarios, it's that logical reasoning again, just asking yourself, what's the most likely thing that's going to happen? So if you leave the front door unlocked, it's most likely that you would come home from work and nothing would have happened. That's the most likely thing. Now, there's always a risk that your house could have been burgled, but there's always a risk of that. Someone could just smash a window and get in if they wanted to. But it's not allowing those worst case scenarios to upset us and to calm ourselves down by thinking a bit more logically, or else you're just going to be on edge all the time. Next we have mental filter. As an unhelpful thinking style, this is more towards the negative tendencies where you'll filter out all the positive things and make them very small and insignificant within your own mind. And the negative ones will be blown out of proportion and they're just going to be what you're focusing on all the time. And that's just going to put you in a... So we want to change that, and you can either do logical thinking, which we've gone over, or you could intentionally try to just bring out all the positives. So if you do have this negative tendency, you've already got a bias towards negativity, and if you want, you could change that to be a bias towards positivity. People might think you have a big ego, but does it matter what other people think? If you're happy, you're happy, you're not hurting anyone, that's what matters, right? That brings us on to mind reading. Trying to figure out what someone is thinking is basically impossible because it's all your own thoughts. You're just projecting and saying that I think that that person is thinking this, but that's still your thought. It's not theirs. And if you combine that with a negative tendency, then things are just going to go wrong. We never know what someone else is thinking truly, so it's best to just not try or assume the best, which is just positive thinking. So these are rolling into each other quite well because the next one is critical self, and we want to turn that into positive self. The negative tendencies, they all have a theme, and they're big problems if they're problems to you and they're making you feel down and negative. It's about flipping that switch to be more positive and look at the positives. And at first it's going to feel weird because you've given so much weight to the negative aspects or the negative interpretations that when you start trying to say all these positive things to yourself, they're not going to carry much weight. But this is where you just keep doing it over and over and over again, and over time they will carry more weight and the negative ones will carry less. And this is where you might see that you want to be right more than you want to be healthy, because it's very easy to say I don't do anything and then just sit still, and then you don't do anything and then you're right. So I am correct. I have interpreted the world correctly. I can now understand it better. Things aren't so odd to you. You feel more in control. However, that's not healthy for you. And maybe telling yourself, I'm a great person, and then having a few conversations with people and maybe they didn't go so well. You feel like you failed and you were wrong. We want to change critical self to positive self because then we can emphasize all the positive aspects of a situation and make ourselves feel better rather than giving into these negative tendencies. And the last one I'm going over is mountains and molehills. This is where we've taken something very small, once again these negative tendencies, taken something very small and just blown it out of proportion, when logically, with the logical thinking, we can bring it down and realize that it's a much smaller problem than it actually is, and it's doing the evidence for and against to see whether it is a big problem or not, and then you can take the necessary action rather than just going by a feeling and realizing 5 minutes later you've completely blown it up. But that's better than nothing realizing that you have, because then you can bring it back down. The important question to ask yourself, and this comes from Anthony Robbins, his Unlimited Power book and Awaken the Giant Within, it's all about if this belief or value you have, is it empowering you? That's what's important at the end of the day. It doesn't really matter if it's right or wrong. Is it getting you towards your goal? That's what's important. So that's it for this video. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like. If you want to share your thoughts, then leave a comment down below. And if you want to see some more videos from Trial by Fire, then please subscribe. And I'll see you in the next one.